There is a war being waged inside you, a silent, invisible battle between who you are and who you refuse to become, between the face you show the world, polished, acceptable, safe, and the force that lurks beneath it, untamed, unspoken, hungry. This is your shadow, not some villain, not some flaw to be erased, but the exiled part of your soul, the raw, unfiltered power you've been taught to fear, the ambition too bold to admit, the rage too fierce to release, the hunger too vast to voice. And yet, here's the truth that changes everything. Your shadow is not your enemy. It is your fortune. The wealth you seek, the unshakable confidence, the relentless drive, they are not found in the light of your carefully constructed self. They are found in the dark, buried in the very parts of you that you've been running from. So I ask you now, how much longer will you hide? How much longer will you deny the power that already lives inside you? Because the moment you stop fleeing your darkness is the moment your life begins. We live in a world obsessed with surfaces, with curated lives, filtered emotions, and the relentless pursuit of an impossible ideal, the perfect self, the one who never doubts, never fails, never wants too much. But here is the brutal irony. That perfect self? It is a prison, a gilded cage built on the denial of everything that makes you human. Your fears, your desires, your flaws, your fury. Carl Jung called it the persona, the mask you wear to survive. But survival is not the same as power, and the more you cling to that mask, the more you sever yourself from the very force that could make you unstoppable. Think of the greatest creators, the warriors, the visionaries, the ones who shaped history. They were not perfect. They were complete. They did not hide from their shadows. They wielded them. Steve Jobs' relentless obsession, Einstein's rebellious defiance, Beethoven's roaring defiance of fate. These were not polished saints. They were men who embraced their darkness and turned it into mastery. So I ask you again, what greatness are you denying in yourself? What fire are you smothering because it doesn't fit the acceptable version of who you should be? It's time to stop apologizing for your depth. Your darkness is not your weakness. It is your weapon. Now, how? How do you take what has been buried and forge it into power? The answer lies in shadow work, not some mystical ritual, but the deliberate, unflinching act of facing what you've been taught to ignore. Every repressed ambition, every silenced desire, every moment you bit your tongue when you should have roared. These are not wounds, they are unclaimed energy. And the process is simple, though not easy. First, you must see it, not as something to fix, but as something to reclaim. That jealousy you feel when you see someone succeed, that is not pettiness. It is a signal, a signpost pointing to the ambition you've been too afraid to own. That anger you suppress when you're disrespected, it is not toxic. It is your boundaries screaming to be enforced. Second, you must integrate it, not by letting it control you, but by channeling it with precision. The entrepreneur who taps into their greed, not for exploitation, but for relentless creation. The artist who harnesses their pain, not for suffering, but for transcendent work. The leader who embraces their ruthlessness, not for cruelty, but for unshakable vision. This is the alchemy, turning lead into gold, turning fear into fuel, turning shadow into wealth. And the final step, you must act from it. No more waiting for permission. No more waiting until you're healed. The shadow is not a problem to be solved. It is a force to be unleashed. So, what have you been hiding? And more importantly, what will you become when you finally stop running? This is where true power lies, not in the denial of your nature, but in the mastery of it. Because when you stop hiding from your darkness, you become whole. And a whole man, a whole woman, they are unstoppable. They do not fear their ambition, they direct it. They do not suppress their anger, they transmute it. They do not beg for validation, they command respect. This is the foundation of unshakable wealth. Not just money, though that will come, but the kind of wealth that cannot be taken. The wealth of self-ownership, of unbreakable confidence, of a life lived without apology. So look inward, find what you've been afraid to face, and then claim it. Because the world does not need more polished shells, it needs real men, real women, those who have stared into their own depths and emerged forged in fire. Will you be one of them? The choice is yours, but choose quickly. Time does not wait for those who hesitate, and destiny favors only the brave. There is a moment, a single defining moment, when you stand at the edge of your own abyss, when the illusions shatter, when the masks crumble, and all that remains is the raw, unfiltered truth of who you are. This is the moment of reckoning. Most people turn away. They retreat into distraction, into comfort, into the familiar numbness of half-lived lives. But you are not most people, because you understand something they do not. The abyss is not your end. It is your beginning. Every legend, every icon, every titan of industry and art has stood where you now stand. They faced the same fear, the same doubt, the same voice whispering, "Turn back." But they did something different. They stepped forward, into the dark, into the unknown, into the parts of themselves they had spent a lifetime avoiding. And in that darkness, they found gold. You have been lied to, told that wealth is built from hustle alone, from grinding, from smiling, from playing the game just like everyone else. But that is the path of the follower, the path of the unaware. True wealth, unshakable wealth, is built from something far deeper, from the parts of yourself the world told you to hide, your aggression, your hunger, your refusal to settle. These are not flaws. They are your leverage. Think of the wolf. Does it apologize for its teeth? Does the storm beg forgiveness for its thunder? No. They own their nature, and so must you. Because the world operates on a shadow economy, a hidden exchange of power where only those who embrace their full selves rise. The entrepreneur who stops fearing his ambition and demands more. The artist who stops sanitizing her vision and imposes it. The leader who stops seeking approval and commands respect. This is the alchemy, turning what you feared into what fuels you, turning your shadow into your strategy. So let me ask you directly, who are you when no one is watching? When the cameras are off? When the applause fades? When you are alone with the thoughts you dare not speak? That version of you, the uncensored, unfiltered, unapologetic force, that is your power. But you have been taught to lock it away, to call it too much, to fear its intensity. But here is the truth. The world does not change by those who fit in. It changes by those who refuse to, by those who tear off the mask and say, "This is me, raw, real, unrefined." That is where true wealth begins, not in pretending, but in owning. This is your call. Not to become someone else, but to become more yourself than you have ever dared. To stop hiding, to stop shrinking, to stop asking for permission to exist in your full power. The shadow is not your enemy. It is your ally, your untapped reservoir of strength, your hidden key to unshakable wealth. So stand at the edge, look into the abyss, and then step forward. Because on the other side of that darkness is the life you were meant to live. Will you claim it? The choice is yours, but choose wisely. The world is waiting. Most people will never understand this. They'll spend their lives chasing success like dogs chasing cars, never realizing true power comes not from running toward the light, but from conquering the darkness within. What if I told you every limitation you face exists first in the shadow realm of your psyche? That your financial ceiling, your stunted relationships, your unrealized potential, these are merely symptoms of a deeper disease, the disease of self-rejection. There exists an invisible marketplace where all real power is traded. Not the fake LinkedIn inspiration posts, not the polished Instagram success stories. The real exchange happens in the shadows. Warren Buffett didn't build his empire on sunshine and optimism. He harnessed a ruthless, analytical shadow, the part that sees numbers not as figures, but as living, breathing systems. Steve Jobs didn't innovate through people-pleasing. He channeled his inner tyrant, the perfectionist shadow that demanded impossible standards. Your shadow contains your competitive edge, that part of you that's obsessive when others are lazy, relentless when others quit, uncompromising when others fold. Ancient societies understood what we've forgotten. They didn't send boys into manhood with TED Talks and participation trophies. They initiated them through trials by fire, through facing darkness, through conquering fear. Your modern initiation waits, not in some jungle ritual, but in the boardroom, the gym, the lonely hours before dawn when no one's watching. Will you prove yourself worthy? Your financial portfolio means nothing without your psychological portfolio, and right now yours has gaping holes where your shadow assets should be. The warrior shadow, your capacity for disciplined action. The strategist shadow, your ability to think 10 moves ahead. The sovereign shadow, your refusal to be ruled by others' opinions. Most investors diversify their stocks while leaving their greatest assets, their shadows, undeveloped. Fools. When you invest in integrating your shadow, the returns compound exponentially. That anger becomes boundaries, that greed becomes ambition, that pride becomes standards, that lust becomes creative energy. These are the dividends that make millionaires, that build empires, that create legends. Time is your most precious commodity, and it's bleeding out as you read this. Every moment you spend rejecting your shadow is a moment stolen from your destiny. The world doesn't need more nice guys, more people-pleasers, more followers. It needs warriors who've made peace with their darkness and now wield it as a weapon. Your shadow isn't waiting for permission. It's waiting for your courage. The question is simple. Will you meet it in the arena? Or die wondering what could have been? The market never closes. The game never ends. The only question is, are you player or prey? Choose now.